Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of MCU Rewatch. In this episode, we're going to be rewatching Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So last episode we rewatched Iron Man 3, and in that episode I mentioned that we're not going to be watching Thor: Dark World because personally I think that movie is just way too boring. I literally cannot sit through it. But Captain America: The Winter Soldier is one of my favorite Marvel movies, and it's the Marvel movie I've seen the most times. I think I've seen this movie about 6 times. This will be my 7th time watching it. Overall, I love this movie so much, and I'm probably just going to be praising it the entire time. If you guys are new in here and haven't seen any of the other MCU rewatch episodes, basically how this works is I just show little clips of the movie, and then I give you guys my quick thoughts on that part, and then at the end I give you guys my overall consensus and a short review. But without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. Episode 6 of MCU Rewatch, rewatching Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I could honestly record this entire ship action scene. It's so good. I'm only gonna record parts of it though. I might actually end up recording all of it and just have to clip it, but it's so good. Bro, if Black Widow has action like this, count me in. Speaking of Black Widow, this video is supposed to come out before Black Widow does come out, and I've heard that the action is super similar to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that's probably the main reason I'm hyped for the movie. If the action is anything near The Winter Soldier, I'm hype. Action scenes like this one, they make me hype for more Captain America Winter Soldier movies, like especially like Captain America 4. That combat's gonna be crazy. Hopefully the Russos don't direct it. Hopefully they get someone new to direct it, because I know obviously they're gonna probably go more in a political direction, with which I actually kind of like, but I still think there's gonna be so much more combat, and I think there'll be so much cool combat going on, especially like going off of what this movie did. Literally, we haven't had a spy Captain America movie since this movie, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier really showed that they are still keeping those spy elements within the character. So I'm excited to see where they go.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
Bro trusted a cat. I remember hearing that line on the big screen in theaters, and I was like, oh my god, he must have lost it in battle or something. No. He lost it to a cat scratching Captain Marvel. It might be the dumbest joke ever played because they made it seem like it was so serious.
By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection. This isn't freedom. This is fear.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be.
I really like the theme of this movie, which is more like, it's like kind of like Captain America revolting against the government for the first time. That's what I like about Captain America's arc, is that he's not like Steve Rogers was the way America saw themselves. They thought that they were perfect. John Walker was the reality of what America was, and Sam Wilson is what America should be. But yeah, I think that's why I like Steve Rogers' arc so much, is that he kind of realizes himself that the government isn't good, and he takes it into himself to kind of revolt against them, not only in the Winter Soldier against S.H.I.E.L.D., but also in Civil War. I love the way they keep Bucky's or the Winter Soldier's character such a mystery. It's so well done, and it just looks so good. Like, they show just enough of the shots to get us excited for who he is, and obviously we know who he is. I've seen this movie way too many times, and we've seen everything else happen in the MCU, but just the way they tease him every time is it's just so well done to me. They show like just enough glimpses of his arm and his long hair, and then a little bit of his mask, and then we get that one shot of his close-up face where he has like the black paint over his eyes, and you see the mask and his long hair in the wind. It's so suspenseful, it's so mysterious, it's just every single element combined, and you get really no closure in that scene itself, which makes it even more mysterious.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
That might just be my favorite Captain America fight slash sequence in this movie, maybe even in the entirety of the MCU. It's just such a good fight scene. It might be one of my favorite action scenes in the MCU. I mean, I don't really know. I should do a ranking of action scenes in the MCU, which would be super cool, but I do think that that's a phenomenal action sequence. Also, the way it transitions from the elevator fight to the fight with the ship and him on the motorcycle, it's just a mix of the best of both worlds. It's like a motorcycle chase scene with him dodging bullets from a ship. The elevator fight is so messy, but so well choreographed at the same time. It just doesn't make sense to me. Overall, like I said before, I love this movie, and I'm loving it even more watching it right now.
He already crossed me soul. I want confirmed death in 10 hours.
Sorry, Mr. Pierce, I forgot my phone.
Oh, no. I wish you would have knocked.
It's crazy how actually kind of dark this movie is, like, especially on the Winter Soldier side of the story and, like, that guy that's the CEO of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just crazy to see that. Really hope Captain America 4 is just as brutal, and I've heard from early reviews that Black Widow is just as brutal, maybe even more brutal, so I'm super excited.
Oh, wait, what about that girl from Counting? Laura?
Brilliant. Luke Pearson, right?
Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah. I'm not ready for that. Someone's out doing a missile program.
That might be one of the coolest character introductions, like side character introductions. Might be one of the best ones in the MCU. Okay, so I know he said Stephen Strange. I've known this since like the second time I watched the movie. I've seen people talk about it all over the internet. But why Stephen Strange? Like, that's on a whole nother level. Like, what is Hydra gonna do against an all-powerful, basically magician, sorcerer supreme, one of the most powerful people in the MCU right now? What is S.H.I.E.L.D. gonna do against him? Like, I understand Hulk because he was a threat in Avengers, but why just bring up like Stephen Strange randomly? Why not bring up like Guardians or like Ronin or some intergalactic thing that actually has a movie coming up? Because if I'm not mistaken, Doctor Strange is still like 5 or 6 movies after this one. This might just be the best MCU fight scene ever. I personally think it is. This movie definitely has like 2 or 3 out of the top 5 MCU fight scenes ever. And this one is 100% one of them. Like I said before, possibly and probably the best action sequence in the entire MCU, strictly because it's so versatile. There's gun combat, hand-to-hand combat, combat with the shield, knife combat, and there's a partial car chase in the beginning that starts off the entire fight. And at the end, there's the reveal that the Winter Soldier is obviously Bucky. It's just such a cool fight overall. And this movie just keeps getting like more intense and more intense. There's like small twists here and there. Obviously, I know all the twists because I've seen the movies, but I like the way they do the twists still. Dude, I love Bucky as a villain so much. He might just be one of the best MCU villains, but technically he's not like the big bad. Like, he's a bad for Captain America, but technically it is this dude.
The price of freedom is high. It always has been. It's a price I'm willing to pay. If I'm the only one, then so be it. I'm willing to bet I'm not.
Bro, those speeches, Captain America speeches, never disappoint.
I'm sorry.
No, in all seriousness, that was a great twist the first time I watched it. I remember it's still a great twist right now. I also like how they focus on that old lady's character a lot, and they show her in a lot of camera shots to emphasize her importance, obviously. And then obviously we have the twist where Natasha Romanoff is that old lady.
You're a lot heavier than you look. You had a big breakfast.
Can we just talk about the different variety of fighting in these battles? Like, there's always so many different aspects going on. That's what I love so much about this movie. There's like the regular hand-to-hand combat, then there's the gear that the Winter Soldier has, and then there's Cap's shield, etc. There's just so much that can go on in one battle.
Please don't make me do this.
I'm so glad they have the variety of fighting because it actually makes it seem like Captain America can lose. Like, for example, obviously I know what happens at the end. Captain America basically gets his head bashed in his skull. It's just with all this different variety, there's so much possibility that there is to have Cap getting injured. Like, there's the knife, there's just regular punches, there's gunshot wounds, there's just so much that can go on.
I'm on 41, headed toward the southwest stairwell.
Dude, I love it. I love it so much.
3, 2, 1.
Charlie Lock.
Where are the Tommies? Where are the Tommies?
Okay, Cap, get out of there.
I love how they technically defeated the villain, but the real villain is the Winter Soldier for Captain America. Like, there's that big bad of S.H.I.E.L.D. being taken over by Hydra. That's all been resolved because the ships are going down in flames. They're not being used anymore, but there's still that battle between the Winter Soldier and Captain America. That conflict is still there. That's what I like about so much about this movie, is because there's two conflicts, but technically the villainous conflict, the antagonistic conflict is the same. It's just split into two separate parts, which make it way better.
You're my friend. You're my mission.
This shot right here is my favorite. That one shot itself just does so much. To me, it kind of symbolizes the whole movie. It's like Captain America versus the world. I mean, obviously he has Natasha and Sam Wilson on his side, but like at the end of the day, it is Captain America against the rest of the world, S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, all these big people, like everyone against Captain America. And that's what I love so much about that shot.
You're going after him.
You're gonna have to come with me.
I know. When do we start?
Alright guys, so I just finished watching Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and I think this movie is awesome. But before I go on to gush about it so much, if you guys are new here and haven't already hit that subscribe button, make sure to do so. It helps out the channel a lot. And also, I wanted to mention one bad thing about this movie before I get into gushing about the good and talking about everything that I love about this movie. Because as I mentioned before, I do love this movie a lot. It's one of my favorite MCU movies. It's one of my favorite superhero action movies of all time. But my main issue with the movie does lie within the action parts of the third half. I think the third half is just riddled with way too much action, and the pacing of the third act is really bad. Not to say that I don't like action. I love myself some action, but I feel like the third act itself wasn't paced well enough, especially after the first and second act. There were a good amount of action scenes in the first and second act, and the third act just seemed to be action after action after action. All the dialogue was super important, so there wasn't any breathing room. There wasn't any just like sit there and chill dialogue. Everything was super important to the main story. Obviously, it's the third act, that's supposed to happen, but the action was just so overwhelming that the other dialogue moments didn't feel as important, even if they actually were. But that's honestly my only issue with this movie. I honestly love every other aspect. I love Captain America's evolution as a character. I also love Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in this movie. I love that she has more of a prominent role. Obviously, she was introduced in Iron Man 2. She played a fairly big part in Iron Man 2, but she plays a way bigger role in this movie. Obviously, she's great in this role. Also, Sam Wilson, the Falcon. I love his introduction so much in that introduction scene where they throw the guy off the roof when they're interrogating him, and then he picks him up and drops him on the roof. It's so dope. But my favorite part of this movie is that it's just a mixture of so many different genres. It's a superhero, action, thriller, conspiracy, drama movie. It's just, there's so many tones going around, and I love that. It just doesn't end up so well in the third act because you have to kind of close off all of those tones. For example, the conspiracy tone, I love that tone so much, but it does get complicated here and there because of the Nazi computer dude, the guy who can predict the future and bases the future off of all of the past technological resources given on that person, given on that human. So I just think there's so much going on within all of these tones that sometimes it can be a bad thing, especially in the third act. I love the thriller and mystery aspects when it comes to the Winter Soldier himself, because I feel like this movie wouldn't be the same if you didn't have that mystery of the Winter Soldier up until that main road fight where his mask falls off and he reveals his identity. And speaking about that scene, like I said while watching the movie, that might be my favorite MCU action sequence of all time. And also the way that scene ends is so well done, because Captain America says Bucky, and Bucky has no idea who Bucky is. The Winter Soldier has no idea who Bucky is, and it ends with no other context. It just ends. Like, there's no other like moving on from that plotline. It just completely moves along. It doesn't mention that at all. It obviously mentions him noticing that it's Bucky, but it doesn't mention the brainwashing or anything right then. You actually have to wait a few more scenes until you get to that. So just having that suspense of what does the Winter Soldier think of when Captain America called him Bucky? What did Captain America think when he saw Bucky's face on a man who was literally trying to kill him? There's just so many moving pieces at the end of that action sequence that made it so good. I also really like the political side of this, and I think this is one thing that they should definitely keep in Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson as Captain America. I feel like if they kind of try to shy away from the politics side of stuff, that really doesn't make him Captain America, because he's America's symbol, but America is doing the bad things, SHIELD is doing the bad things, the government is doing the bad things, but they need Captain America. And so it's Captain America's choice at the end of the day. If they make Captain America a fugitive, what are they going to do without him? And that's basically what happens in Civil War. So I definitely hope that these themes, all of these themes, really translate over to Captain America 4, because if they do, Captain America 4 could end up being better than Captain America the Winter Soldier. Overall, I really do love this movie. It's almost a perfect movie in my opinion, and it's a perfect MCU Marvel superhero movie. Though the pacing is off in the third act just a little bit, I think everything else makes up for it. The dialogue is so well done, and we connect with all of the characters and the side characters. But yeah, guys, that is it for this episode of MCU Rewatch. Next episode is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. If you don't want to miss that episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.